Yo, guys, it's Hart going over the top plays you guys need in your lineups for the Sunday main slate here on DraftKings for Week 9. $1 million up top to first place. Let's get into these core plays. Before I get into it, if you guys just hit that like button and subscribe, do really appreciate it. It really helps out my channel. But let's start off here with the quarterbacks. So we have Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen at the top. I think the beauty of this slate for this week, as of right now, maybe we get some more news tomorrow morning. But as of right now, I think there's just a lot of different ways you can kind of take the build of your lineup for this slate. There's not really one clear direction, besides kind of a few running back plays we do want to be on. But otherwise, you can kind of go any route you want to, which is will be interesting because the previous weeks have been super chalky, where it's just kind of a clear direction and clear build you want to go with. This week you can kind of go, you can pay up for the top quarterbacks, you can go in the mid range, you can go down to some pretty low owned, some pretty cheap quarterbacks here. So in terms of the quarterbacks, it's going to be very interesting. In terms of the top two, if you want to get to it, I don't mind it. I think I'm going to be paying down for a lower, a cheaper quarterback, just because there's a lot to like in that bottom range. But Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes both look great. Patrick Mahomes playing at an MVP level. Has Rashee Rice you compare him with. Josh Allen, I feel just a little bit less inclined to get to. We know he has huge upside. We know this is a huge matchup for him, kind of like a legacy matchup, because Patrick Mahomes always beats him in the playoffs. Unfortunately, it'd be nice to see Josh Allen win some of those. But yeah, this could be a absolute cinema game here. If you want to pay up for those two, I don't mind it. You get Herbert against Tennessee, a team we want to target. Tennessee's been terrible. Going down a little bit more, Drake May's been playing great. It's just one of those things like, will we get the good Atlanta defense? Will we get the bad Atlanta defense? Who knows? I just don't love playing Drake May just because you don't really know who to pair him with. If you want to run him naked, you could. But I think I'm going to avoid him. I don't like Bo Nix against Houston defense. I think Stafford versus New Orleans looks great. You get Puka back in that spot. He looks really good. Danny Dimes against the Pittsburgh team. I don't mind it. Daniel Dimes has been pretty solid. I do like Jared Goff at home against Minnesota. Moving on down a little bit more, like you had to mention Caleb Williams, just going against a really bad defense. They should throw the ball a ton. Backup running back they will have to rely on. In terms of Joe Flacco, kind of the same thing, going against bad Bears defense, who has been playing a little bit better. But you have obviously T. Higgins, Chase Brown, Jamar Chase to pair him with, so he looks like a really solid option. And then moving on down a little bit more, you get Trevor Lawrence, you get Jackson Dart, who should be pretty popular there, going against the San Francisco 49ers. And I think my favorite play right now is going to be Mac Jones going against the Giants. Should be the starting quarterback. We've seen the upside with him, and he is George Kittle back. So I do really like that, pairing him with George Kittle, CMC, kind of going that route. You can definitely do a bring back if you wanted with one of the Giants guys. I don't love it, but there's that option. But I think he's right now he's going to be my favorite play. So I'm going to go with him at 5,000. But I did mention you could get pretty cute here. Geno Smith, it's not great. He's been absolutely god awful, but he does have that ability to go for 20 plus. Like if we get a spot here, as we saw in week 1, like if he goes for 20 plus at 4,600, that is really good for your lineup because it allows you to pay up for other spots. He has Brock Bowers back. I think Jacoby Myers is back as well. Let's check that real fast. Yeah, I mean, he should be good to go. So he gets his top 2 guys in the spot against Jacksonville, a team that's going to be struggling on offense. They don't have Travis Hunter. So a lot to like there in terms of, if you're playing 150 lineups, definitely take a shot on Geno Smith because you can pair him with a really cheap Jacoby Myers, really cheap Brock Bowers, and we know they have talent. If they connect, it could be a really good spot there. So we've seen gross lineups win. Don't be afraid to play him if you're playing a ton of lineups just because of how bad he's been. We know there's upside there. So that's my quarterback situation. In terms of the running back situation, there's a ton of value. So right now, DeAndre Swift is out. Kamara is questionable, but he should probably be good to go, I believe. But still keep an eye out on that. Stevenson is out. Pacheco is out. And yeah, that is it right now. Haskins is on IR. So there's a lot to like here in terms of the running backs. So for me, if you want to pay up for Jonathan Taylor, sure. MVP, I don't mind it. Everyone's going to be going to CMC. It makes sense, a smash spot here against the Giants, coming off a terrible game there. But we've seen the, targets. Everything's there. And he gets another week where George Kittle's there. They're getting a little bit healthier. I really like the spot for CMC. He's going to be the highest owned running back on the slate, but it makes perfect sense as to why. You can definitely leverage off of him and go to Bijan if you want to, or, go down to Jahmyr Gibbs. Similar upside. Really good play here. Absolutely love that price tag at 8,000. I think Josh Jacobs, we just saw what James Cook did to the Panthers. I mean, Josh Jacobs should have a similar upside. not as explosive play, doesn't have as many explosive plays, but we just know he is a grinder and can easily go out there and get you 30 plus, as we've seen in weeks 4 and 6 back-to-back games for him there. He did really, really well. So there's a lot of running back plays that are in just great spots. I think right now it's CMC for me. Actually, let's get off the chalk for CMC. I think he's a fantastic play. I think you guys should most likely play him. But just for the sake of this video, let's just get a little bit, less chalky. Let's go to Jahmyr Gibbs as that top spin-up running back. Moving on a little bit more, absolutely love Kamani Vidal. I prefer just getting to him over the Chargers wide receivers just because he's getting the ball in terms of wide receivers for the Chargers. It's been kind of chaos in terms of who's been going off. It's been Ladd and Arande, Gladstone, but it could be Keenan Allen and Quentin Johnson this week. You just don't really know, so that's why I feel safe going to Kamani Vidal in a smash bot. Doesn't have anyone to kind of compete with him in terms of that number one running back role for that team. Moving on down a little bit more, Chase Brown against the Bears looks really, really solid. He's coming off of some decent games recently. Teams has found something there with Joe Flacco as a quarterback. Moving on down a little bit more, I think, Rico Dotto is interesting. Like, going against the Packers, obviously a good team, but the Packers have been playing down to their opponents. So if Rico Dotto, as we've seen, he can go out and he can put up massive, massive games. He should be getting a bulk of the carries. I'd expect close to 20, if not more, if he's doing really well. And yeah, he could be a super contrarian option. I don't love it, but he's definitely there. We know the upside with him. Moving on down a little bit more, I think, it makes sense to get to Jaylen Warren in, what should be a decently high-scoring game. Most likely Indiana's up. Pittsburgh's going to have to throw the ball a ton. He is a good target out of the backfield, and he's been solid in terms of running the ball as well. So he has good upside. I think he's a solid play at 5,500. Moving on down a little bit more, I think Woody Marks is interesting, and if they're down, they can look to him in that passing game there. Moving on down a little bit more here, we have Tracy Jr., who should get the start. Obviously in that kind of Cam Scatterbo role, he looks really good there at 5,100 as a bring back option if you wanted to go to him. Moving on down a little bit more, Trayvon Henderson. I would assume he gets to start. They are bringing people off the practice squad. It doesn't feel safe going to him right now. I'd rather pay up for other options, but if you do want to go to him, he is there. We know he's talented. It's just the Patriots have just not utilized him. Even when they have, Gibson being out, Stevenson's now out. It's like, it wouldn't surprise me if they still limit him in some sort of fashion. That's why I just don't love getting them. There's just better spots to get to, and that is going to be Kyle Monangai here with DeAndre Swift out. He should be the main running back. We saw in week 7 there, he put up 17.4 points against the Saints in what was like a kind of close game. So it wasn't like he's getting a ton of blowout run. Like, he was getting good run throughout the entire game. He has a little bit of, decent talent. So I really like him. Going to be one of the chalkiest running backs, but for good reason. Starting running back going against a terrible Cincinnati Bengals defense, you want to target that. 4,600 allows you to pay up for a lot of other spots. So I think that's a great starting point there. If you want to get off of your super chalky CMC, I don't advise it, but you can definitely go to Gibbs in a great spot against Minnesota. And then obviously kind of that value saver, just the super chalk, eat it there with Kyle Monangai, 4,600. Going to get that running back one role for the Bears in a great matchup against the Bengals. Moving on to the wide receiver situation, I think it's pretty clear. Puka and Jamar Chase, the two top end plays for wide receiver. You get Puka against the terrible Saints team. We know the upside with him and just the overall usage, just absolutely insane. And then same thing with Jamar Chase. Like, as you can see, he's getting like 100 targets a game the past 3 weeks with Joe Flacco throwing the ball. And now he gets a Bears secondary who is just very, very depleted. So they both look fantastic. I don't mind paying up for both of them if you wanted to, and paying down for the kind of the cheaper value running backs, just because for running backs, they're going to get the touches. For wide receivers, obviously you have to throw them the ball, so it's not a guarantee that they get those catches. That's kind of the safer route there if you wanted to do that. And it's kind of, it's more so the contrarian build. If you did want to pay down for the kind of running back values, instead of going to Gibbs, you throw in Tyrone Tracy Jr., and then you go to Puka and Jamar Chase is kind of your top two spin-up plays in terms of wide receiver. I don't mind that. I think Amon Ra is a great, contrarian play off the top two chalky guys because he's in a great spot against Minnesota, and we know the upside with him. He's just been super, super steady and consistent, has the ability to go for 30-plus easily. Below that, I don't mind Justin Jefferson. It's just the fact that I don't love the fact that J.J. McCarthy's on the ball. Rashid Rice should be super popular, 7,600. I think he's finally priced about right, but he's been having massive games in blowout spots. Like, if it's a close game, like, he could be going for 30-plus if they're going to feed him the ball like they've done the past few games. Moving on down a little bit more, I think Drake London's kind of the best in this kind of lower 6K range. Brian Thomas Jr. is a very interesting tournament play there with no Travis Hunter. There's another guy I really like for the Jaguars as well. We'll talk about him. Moving on down a little bit more, Ladd McConkey, he's been second in the league in terms of targets the past few weeks behind Jamar Chase. He's looked really, really good against a very bad Tennessee defense. Pittman Jr.'s price really hasn't moved. Just getting consistent, targets 9 and 9 the past 2 games. I like him. T. Higgins looks like a great spot if you're not going to go to Jamar Chase. Moving on down a little bit more here, I will mention DK Metcalf going against Indiana. They should be down. They should be throwing the ball. Main wide receiver. Quentin Johnston in tournaments, I think he's interesting. Khalil Shakir is the number one option there for the Bills. Moving on down a little bit more, as I mentioned, Jacoby Myers, very, very cheap to get to him. Wan'Dale Robinson is a nice bring back option for the Giants. I like that. Moving on a little bit more, Kendrick Bourne, I don't want to go to him. I'd rather take a shot on Juwan Jennings. I really, really like Jameson Williams. They talked about how they need to get him involved this week. He's coming off a game where he got 0 targets. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes for 15, 20 plus here. Going to be throwing him in there as the kind of lower owned play. Hopefully people should, hopefully be off of him, and I'm going to take advantage of that and hope he has that kind of blow up breakout game. Moving on down a little bit more, as I mentioned, Juwan Jennings looks really good here. 7 targets past 2 weeks. If you're going to pair him with Mac Jones, I really like that. Moving on down a little bit more, Christian Kirk there. I don't mind him at 4,200. That's pretty cheap for kind of that wide receiver 2 on the Texans. I'll mention Calvin Austin. He's a good second option there for the Steelers. And then moving to, I will mention DK. He's been solid the past 2 weeks, 4 targets. Massive game there against the Patriots, and then followed it up there against Indiana. 8 targets, 7 for 93. He's been solid. He's kind of been overtaking Alamore or whatever his name is, Elick, the past 2 games in terms of kind of the top guy for the Titans. But Elick is still getting those targets. But cheap option there. The guy I did want to mention is going to be Parker Washington here for the Jaguars. He's flashed a lot of upside the past 2 years, this year and last year when guys have gotten injured for the Jaguars. So he's very talented, as you can see. 10 targets that last game. He had 11 in week 3. He can get those spikes in targets. He's talented, good catch radius. I think it's just an easy value play to play there if you wanted to get to him. In terms of wide receiver 3 for them, just want to take a quick look here. Diami Brown, I don't mind him. He's one of those other guys, he's gotten involved. They do like to get him the ball, but I'd just rather go to Parker Washington. He's just a little bit more athletic and just a little bit more explosive in terms of those plays. Just a better kind of overall wide receiver talent. And that's really it for the wide receivers. Checked on everyone there. That's really it. In terms of the Bears, there is some value. If you want to go to Zacharias, if you wanted to, you could. I don't love it. And then the tight end situation, Tucker Kraft has been absolutely amazing. It's just, kind of hard to trust this. Will it continue? It's the Packers. They could easily go to Josh Jacobs. We've seen it, over the past, 100 years. Since they haven't had Devontae Adams, they just will go and throw it to anyone they want to. That's not a clear, cut wide receiver 1. So that's what scares me about Tucker Kraft is he can go out there and get you 4 targets and, kind of tank you at 5,700. Warren looks like he's in a good spot. Gadsden, as I said, it's just hard to trust him being kind of, consistently carrying this on when you have Quentin Johnston, you have Ladd McConkey, you have Kamani Vidal, you have Keenan Allen. Can we trust him getting the same kind of production, even though he's been really, really good the past few weeks? Brock Bowers, they said he's at full speed. I don't know if I believe it, but 5,000 for Brock Bowers. We know the talent. We know the upside. Could it be the breakout week? I don't mind it. You can definitely go 2 double tight ends this week. I do like that approach. I think for me personally, I'm going to be paying for George Kittle here at this price tag, especially if I'm not going into CMC. I think I really like the upside for George Kittle. 4,800. He's one of those guys who should be priced about $56,000 to $6,000. So he's definitely too cheap here. Really like this matchup, and you're paying him with Mac Jones there. So, yeah, this gives you a lot of salary left over, 6,300 left over. You can easily get to CMC if you wanted to, and then you have 50. Let's go to defense. I do like paying up for defense this week. I really like going to the Rams there against Shuck, whatever his name is, for the Saints, and then wide receiver situation. We could get to Drake London, really like that. You have Brian Thomas Jr., Ladd McConkey, T. Higgins. I think we're not going to get to Jamar Chase. I think T. Higgins makes a lot of sense there. Or we can get to Drake London. I'm going to go to T. Higgins as right now. It leaves you 500 left over to kind of get, different other spots, but I think this is a great kind of first look build. Obviously, we might get a bunch of information news tomorrow morning that might change some stuff, but in terms of like initial core plays, I think right now for me, it's going to be, let's take out some of these guys. I think this will be the initial core plays for me. Mac Jones, quarterback, you pair him with George Kittle and CMC. Really like that. Common on guys, a value running back play. Eat that chalk. Get a little bit different with Jameson Williams. Pay up for the Rams at a great spot against the backup quarterback there. For the Saints, just a really bad team. They might be without Kamara as well. So I think this is a great building back. It leaves you $6,000 to pay up for 2 other spots if you want to do that. I also mentioned if you wanted to get a little bit different here, we could definitely do common on guy, as I mentioned, Tracy Jr. 2 value running backs. Oh, I forgot to put Kamani Vidal. So in terms of final core plays, if you made it to this point, it's going to be Kamani, Manangai as the 2 main running backs, and then the other people I had, George Kittle, Jameson Williams. I do like that. And then the Rams D. That's going to be the core plays there. And it's up to you who you want to go to kind of for the pay up options. We could definitely go to, as I mentioned, CMC. We can throw him in there, and we can still get to Puka if we wanted to. It leaves us 3,300 left over. Not the best, but we can definitely get to guys like Zacchaeus, as I mentioned, for the Bears. Luther Burden is out, so Zacchaeus should have that wide receiver 3 role, and he's had solid production so far this season in that spot, especially now with no Luther Burden. It should be good to go for him. Roman Middleton's been getting a little bit more involved recently. You could take a dart throw on him, but I think Zacchaeus is a really solid value option there at 3,300 is like the wide receiver 3 for the Bears, who is getting a good amount of run. But in terms of the lineup path I was talking to you guys about, you can easily go to, let's say, Kamani Vidal, Kyle Manangai. Tracy Jr. was the other one I mentioned. Kind of those 2 really cheap, really good spots here for those running backs. And then you could definitely pay up for Puka and Jamar Chase if you want to do that. And it makes sense to get to George Kittle here. So those are some options for you guys for the slate tomorrow. Hope you guys like the video. Hit the like button and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.